Okay. Good morning, guys. You know that this last week was the week that I my birthday, 50 years, and you know that you can think that this is almost one more birthday, but I believe that in the context that I'm living, make me to reflect a lot about the life, about the things. Like I told you, my mother is very, very sick. I believe that is in the last days. I don't know if a month could be. And all of these things make me to think about the life and the transition that God prepared for us in different seasons that we live during the life, you know. Um, and I'd like to tell you something about how you can become kept in one season and not transition for the next season. This is very important. I don't know if you see someone like 40, 50 years, but the uh, lifestyle is like a teenager, you know. People that don't make the transitions in different seasons, and they become stuck in the in the past, you know. And I'd like to start read with you a text in Ephesians 3:16 to 21. Can you read for us again?
Yeah,
Ephesians
Ephesians.
3:16 to 21.
Ephesians chapter. I couldn't hear you.
3.
3:16. That according to the riches of his glory, he may grant you to be strengthened with the power through his Spirit in your inner being, so that Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith, that you, being rooted and grounded in love, may have strength to comprehend with all the saints what is the breadth, the length, and the height and depth, and to know the love of Christ that surpasses knowledge, that you may be filled with all the fullness of God.
Ok. Esse texto, eu gostaria de dividir ele em três partes para a gente conversar sobre ele hoje.
I would like to divide this text in three parts.
A primeira parte é a causa e a segunda são dois efeitos dessa causa.
First, we're going to analyze the cause, and then we will analyze two consequences.
Então, qual é a causa? Paulo fala assim: o poder de sermos fortalecidos pelo Espírito no homem interior.
What is the cause? Paul is talking about the to be strengthened with power through his spirit in your inner being.
Então, toda a realidade desse texto de Paulo está relacionado a algo que nós temos falado muito durante os últimos anos que nós estamos juntos, que é a realidade do novo pacto, que é todo o processo que acontece no homem interior.
And Paul is talking about something that we've been discussing for years as we learn about the new covenant, which is a process that happens in the inner being.
Guys, pay attention to this because I believe if you understand this, this is the main subject about the new covenant. and about the life. You know, when you understand that all the process that we're living outside is not the most important, is what happens inside us during the things that happen outside. So this text, Paul is talking us about the power of to be strength in our inside. And what's happened if we allow, if you permit this. Vamos lá. Com isso, nós podemos compreender a profundidade do amor de Deus e o entendimento. Ele fala de largura, comprimento, altura. A gente consegue entender com mais clareza a profundidade do amor de Deus quando nós somos fortalecidos no homem interior.
And Paul is talking about breadth and length and height and depth. He's trying to paint the picture of dimensions to give us an understanding of what happens from inside in terms of the understanding that we receive from Christ.
E a outra parte, então tem uma causa dos efeitos. A causa é o poder dentro de nós, ela nos faz compreender mais a profundidade do amor de Deus. E a outra consequência é que a gente consegue acessar aquilo que ele pode fazer de infinitamente mais.
So the cause is laid out. It's this power that we receive that strengthens us through the Holy Spirit. The first consequence is this the dimension of understanding of Christ's love, and the third one is the fullness of God's presence in us.
Nós precisamos entender que a maioria dos cristãos hoje vive um cristianismo superficial.
We need to understand that the majority of believers today, they live a superficial Christianity.
Uma experiência externa com Deus.
Based on an external experience with God.
E isso faz com que eles não consigam acessar o que Paulo diz nesse texto, o que é infinitamente mais de Deus reservado para o homem.
And that keeps man from accessing what Paul is talking about, the fullness of what God has for us.
Me permita dar um exemplo a vocês.
And allow me, please, to give you an example.
Eu sei que o Joshua gosta de surf, eu também gosto de surf, e nós podemos ser surfistas por anos e conhecer o oceano limitado à superfície das ondas.
I know that Josh, he enjoys water and the a board. I remember you had that board that you took to the lake, to the river, to use with your boat, and I enjoyed that too.
E você pode conhecer um oceano só pela superfície e você desfruta da prancha e você passar anos fazendo isso e você não saber nada do que é o oceano, porque o oceano é uma profundidade infinita e quem passa anos na superfície nunca vai saber o que é a profundidade.
And you may have a board and you can enjoy the water from skimming over the top without ever knowing what's below, the depth and everything, the amazing things and the marvelous things that are below the board in the depth of the waters.
A vida com Cristo é a mesma coisa. O fato de você ter uma vida superficial faz com que você não compreenda a profundidade do que é muito maior do que o que você está provando da superfície.
And the life with Christ is in that same way a life where you can skim the top. You can enjoy a superficial Christian life without never getting to know Jesus intimately, never understanding the depth of his love for you.
Vamos ler agora um texto que está em Hebreus 12:15.
I would like to read a verse in Hebrews 12:15. It says, "See to it that no one fails to obtain the grace of God, that no root of bitterness springs up and causes trouble, and by it many become defiled."
Bom, Paulo fala num texto que nós precisamos ser fortalecidos no homem interior para que a gente possa acessar muito mais de Deus.
Paul is talking about was talking about in one scripture that
Ser fortalecidos no homem interior para acessar muito mais de Deus.
That we need to be strengthened in the inner being so that we can access God intimately.
E nesse texto o escritor de Hebreus nos pede para estar atentos diligentemente para que uma palavra muito interessante, uma raiz de amargura, não entre no nosso interior e nos contamine.
So, in this scripture, Paul is talking about, it's calling our attention and asking us not to fail to obtain grace, otherwise a root of bitterness will take place and cause trouble inside of us.
Então aqui, pela primeira vez, a gente vê essa palavra mais explicada por Paulo no Novo Pacto a respeito da amargura.
And for the first time we see here in the New Covenant, Paul is speaking about bitterness.
E que o distanciamento da graça nos leva a esse lugar perigoso que uma raiz de amargura pode começar a nascer em nós.
And that distancing ourselves from grace may cause this root of bitterness to start developing inside of us.
A verdade é que muitos de nós conhecemos essa palavra amargura, mas a gente não entende muito bem o que ela significa.
And the truth is that some of us have heard about this word bitterness, but we don't know what it means.
Eu quero tentar deixar uma maneira mais fácil da gente se lembrar o que é amargura.
And I'll try to paint a picture that will help us remember easily what bitterness is.
Quando eu peco contra Deus, qual é o sentimento que eu tenho?
When I sin against God, what kind of feelings do I have?
Normalmente, quando eu peco contra Deus, o primeiro sentimento que me vem é culpa.
Usually, when I sin against God, one of the first feelings that I have is guilt.
Agora, quando alguém peca contra mim, qual é o sentimento que eu tenho?
Now, when somebody sins against me, what kind of feelings do I have?
Quando alguém peca contra mim, o sentimento que começa a nascer em mim é a amargura.
When somebody sins against me, invariably, the feeling that springs up naturally is bitterness.
Então vamos lá, vou definir para vocês a amargura. A amargura é o resultado produzido por alguém que te engana. Quer ir junto comigo? A amargura é
So
resultado produzido quando alguém te engana.
bitterness is the result of is defined by the feeling you have when somebody deceives you,
Quando alguém te trai,
when somebody betrays you,
quando alguém te ofende,
when somebody offends you,
quando alguém comete algum tipo de injustiça contra a tua vida.
when injustice is committed against your life.
E essa semente brota no teu interior.
And this seed uh, starts sprouting in your interior,
E ela vai sendo alimentada por você mesmo.
and you yourself feed the seed.
A amargura é quando alguém comete algum pecado contra mim que me produz perda.
Bitterness takes place when somebody sins against me, causing me to lose.
Posso perder a honra, posso perder materialmente, posso perder sendo humilhado, mas de fato é um pecado que me traz dano e perda.
That it may cause me to lose financially, to lose materially, to lose morally, to lose my reputation. In any case, it is an action that causes me to lose.
Agora, e quando nós acabamos achando que essa pessoa que pecou contra nós foi Deus?
So, what happens when we feel like the person who caused us to lose is God?
Noemi teve uma experiência como essa.
Noemi had that very experience.
O seu marido morreu e ela falou assim: me chamem de Mara, de Amaga, né? Porque Deus o tirou de mim.
She lost her husband and she asked to be called bitter because God removed him from her.
Na cabeça dela foi Deus que gerou a perda nela, então foi Deus quem produziu a amargura nela.
And in her mind, God was the one taking Jesus away from her. So taking her husband away from us. So she was bitter towards him.
Vocês lembram da história de Jonas?
Do you remember Jonah's story?
Essa história é interessante a gente contextualizar ela hoje.
It is interesting to bring that story into context today.
Vocês estão acompanhando a guerra da Ucrânia com a Rússia?
Are you following what's happening in the war between Russia and Ukraine?
Os russos, quando entraram e invadiram a Ucrânia, eles passavam destruindo e estuprando as mulheres por onde eles passavam.
The Russians, everywhere they invaded, they brought destruction and rape.
Rape é estuprar?
Mm-hmm.
E vocês imaginam, nós aqui como homens, qual a sensação que vai gerando em você contra um inimigo que entra na tua cidade, que entra na tua terra e além de destruir tudo, vai violentando as mulheres?
Imagine the feeling that starts developing when you know that the enemy is invading your land and raping your women.
Nínive foi Rússia na vida de Jonas.
And Nineveh was Russia in Jonah's life.
Nínive guerreou contra Israel e invadiu algumas regiões onde a família de Jonas morava e eles invadiram, abusaram das mulheres e fizeram coisas terríveis naquele lugar.
in the sense that the man of Nineveh invaded and possessed and controlled some of the cities of Israel. And when they came in, they brought destruction and rape and abuse.
E daí Deus vira para Jonas e fala assim: agora eu quero que você vá lá em Nínive e pregue para aquele povo.
And then God turns to Jonah and says, "Hey, listen, I need you to go to those people and share the gospel with them."
Jonas falou assim: mas nem pensar.
Jonah said, "Heck no,
Não vou mesmo.
not going."
Mas daí ele foge para o caminho oposto da onde Deus tinha mandado ele ir.
And to make it even harder, he turns the opposite direction and takes off.
E nesse momento diz a palavra que ele cai do navio, um peixe engole ele e gospe ele lá em Nínive.
And on his way somewhere else, he's thrown overboard. He's swallowed by a fish, who later on spits him right on the shores of the very place he was running away.
E quando ele chega lá, ele prega o evangelho naquele lugar e ele fala assim: o que eu temia me aconteceu, o povo se arrepende.
And when he is there and finally surrenders and preaches to those people, he says at one point, "What I feared has happened. This people have repented."
E daí ele está desolado, está chateado com tudo aquilo ali, com aquele povo com quem ele tinha essa amargura. E daí uma árvore cresce e faz sombra para ele e ele sente um cuidado, um consolo de Deus naquele momento.
And in the midst of those feelings and emotions, after having done what he was supposed to do, he is wasted, he is tired, and this tree grows to provide him shade.
E daí, de repente, Deus vê ele confortável ali embaixo da sombra e faz com que aquela árvore secasse. E quando aquilo acontece, por isso que às vezes a gente tem que entender o contexto, senão a gente fala assim, mas que cara muito frágil, porque a árvore secou, ele ficou chateadinho. Não, ele já estava indo para uma terra anunciar o evangelho para aqueles que tinham ferido e roubado ele. E quando ele está tendo um momento de descanso, Deus arranca aquilo lá e ele se revolta contra Deus, porque Deus havia roubado tudo dele. E ele fica então amargurado.
So Jonah sitting there in the shade, resting, when the tree dries up, removing the covering that he had that protected him from the scorching sun. And then he is upset with God. And sometimes we read this story and we judge him. We say, what a fragile individual. What a weakling. But we fail to understand the context, which is what is weighing heavy on his heart, causing him not to desire to share with them the stories he heard, the experience he had against those people. And when he basically is forced into this situation and he catches a break from it and he is there resting, God causes the tree to dry up, exposing him to the elements.
Na verdade, se a gente for a fundo, a amargura é o resultado da gente não saber lidar com perdas.
If we take a step back and look at bitterness in our lives, we invariably come to the conclusion that it is the result of losses that we have a hard time processing in our lives.
Nossa, tudo isso que você falou para não lidar com perdas?
Eu falei chique.
Ah, ok. Essa frase me saiu agora, só estou marcando aqui porque eu achei interessante.
Uhum.
Então, e outra coisa, a amargura nunca é algo que aconteceu com o outro. Tipo assim, o Adriano passou por uma injustiça, eu fiquei amargurado por ele. Não, eu posso ficar chateado com ele. A amargura é só o resultado de algo que acontece comigo.
And it's interesting that bitterness never happens. There's no secondhand bitterness. I don't get bitter for something that happens to Adriano. I can be upset, but bitterness is the result of something that happens against me.
Isso é importante ser definido.
That is important for us to define as well.
Eu vou te explicar por que é importante. Por exemplo, minha mãe hoje está sofrendo internada num hospital.
So I will explain to you. Today, my mom is ill and she is at a hospital.
E se eu falar assim, nossa, eu estou amargurado por causa dela, eu preciso aprender a discernir o meu sentimento.
And if I stand here and I say, hey, I'm bitter because of my mom, it means that I need to understand, to discern my feelings.
Porque ela está passando por um problema. Eu não estou passando por um problema. Se eu me sinto amargurado, é sinal que eu estou sentindo que Deus está tirando ela de mim. Então, a amargura sempre tem a ver comigo, não com o outro.
So if I look at her situation and I am bitter, it means that the beef is not with what God is doing to her, but it is my perception of what God is doing to me. He is taking her away from me. Does that make sense?
Agora, se a gente consegue entender que a amargura é consequência do pecado,
so if we are able to discern that bitterness is a consequence of sin,
a reação nossa ao pecado de alguém contra nós,
or the reaction of somebody's sin against us,
então é o dano causado em nós por alguém que habita na jurisdição do pecado, como a gente já falou aqui.
but it is the consequence or the effect in us of someone who lives in the jurisdiction of sin, as we discuss here.
Ou que nós interpretamos que a pessoa pecou contra nós, porque no caso de Deus, Deus não peca contra nós, mas na nossa cabeça a gente interpreta que ele pecou.
But again, this is our perspective that God has sinned against us, that He's injured us. It is how we perceive it, not necessarily a reality.
Tá claro isso para vocês?
Is that clear?
Não ficou confuso?
The only nod that we can get here is Josh's. So if he says no, we need to do it again.
Tá ok? Tá clear? That's clear for you? Ok. Então vamos ler dois textos. Romanos capítulo 3.
It's clear.
Okay. So Romans chapter 3. Okay. Verse
9.
Romans 3, verse 9. What then? Are we Jews any better off? No, not at all. For we have already charged that all, both Jews and Greeks, are under sin. As it is written, none is righteous. No, not one.
Então esse texto nos fala que aqueles que não estão vivendo na graça em Cristo, eles estão debaixo do pecado.
So this text shows us and tells us that those who are not living in an environment of grace are living in an environment of sin.
Agora olha o que diz a sequência do texto, Romanos 3,14.
But look what it says further down in verse 14. Their mouth is full of curses and bitterness.
Eu não sei se vocês conseguiram pegar aí no teu espírito o que eu estou tentando explicar.
I'm not sure if it's if you're able to discern what I'm trying to explain here.
Se você sabe que a amargura é causada por alguém que peca contra você,
If you know that bitterness is caused because someone has injured you,
você sabe que a amargura é algo que você tem que se afastar. Paulo fala para a gente ficar alerta para que não cresça a raiz de amargura em nós.
Paul says that we need to distance ourselves from bitterness so that it doesn't take root in us.
Você tem que estar atento para que isso não cresça em você.
You have to be aware so that it doesn't take root in you.
Então, você tem que ter cuidado com as pessoas que você convive, que possam ser pessoas geradoras desse tipo de raiz de amargura, dessa semente maligna em você.
So we also have to be aware of those around us and how they may affect our lives in the way that this root of bitterness won't take place in our hearts.
E Paulo está querendo nos dizer, vocês têm que ser sábios na escolha das pessoas com quem vocês convivem.
And Paul is calling us out to exercise wisdom in discerning the people that we surround ourselves with.
Por exemplo, nós temos aqui um grupo de amigos.
For instance, we are a group of friends here.
É muito pouco provável que um de nós cause amargura no outro.
It's not very probable that one of us here will be the cause of bitterness in our hearts.
Então aqui é um lugar que a gente pode estar com a guarda baixa, que a gente pode se abrir e se expor.
So here's a place where we can just keep our guards down, where we can expose ourselves and open ourselves.
O problema é que às vezes nos falta sabedoria e a gente baixa a guarda em ambientes que a gente tinha que estar com a guarda bem alta, porque são ambientes propícios para produzirem amargura na nossa vida.
But there are other environments where we must keep our guards up to protect us from people who could take us down the path of bitterness.
Por exemplo, de novo na história que aconteceu com o Adriano. Aquele ambiente de trabalho era um ambiente para que ele pudesse estar o tempo todo, quando ele percebeu o tipo de pessoas com que ele convivia, faltou a ele sabedoria naquela época para estar com a guarda alta e falar assim, aqui é um ambiente que eu corro risco o tempo inteiro.
Again, using Adriano's example, he was in an environment where the possibility that he could be exposed to harm was exponentially higher, and that was a place where he failed to discern that he needed to keep his protections up constantly.
Yeah, I was reading what Kip wrote here, and it was perfect definition that he put here about bitterness, but he put a spoiler about I'm going to talk what qual o antídoto para isso.
Mm-hmm. And the spoiler here was the antidote against bitterness.
And Kip just put the antidote here, and that was perfect. But I'm going to touch these points, okay? Agora, quando Paulo fala no primeiro texto que nós lemos lá em cima sobre fortalecer o homem interior para acessar muito mais, nós começamos a ver que a amargura é um grande obstáculo para que a gente possa ter uma vida plena em Deus.
And when Paul is talking about strengthening us from inside out, we understand that bitterness is an amazing barrier that will keep us from experiencing the fullness of God.
Vamos ler o texto de Efésios 4, versículos 31 e 32.
Let's read Ephesians 4, 31 and 32. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and slander be put away from you, along with all malice. Be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, as God in Christ forgave you.
Nesse mesmo contexto, nos versículos anteriores, Paulo fala assim, para não deixar pôr o sol sobre a sua ira.
In the same context, in other
textos anteriores.
In texts prior, Paul is encouraging us not to let the sun go down on our anger.
É como se Paulo estivesse falando assim, todos os dias não vá dormir sem checar se existe alguma semente capaz de produzir uma raiz de amargura dentro de você. Não deixa com que ela cresça.
As it is as if Paul is saying, listen, don't let a day go by without checking our hearts and making sure that you're dealing with people and things that have offended you.
Porque a amargura vai te roubar de uma vida plena.
Because bitterness will steal a fullness of life from you.
A amargura vai te roubar do muito mais que Deus tem para você.
It will rob you of the much more that God has for you.
A amargura vai te prender no teu passado.
Bitterness will keep you bound to your past.
Vai te prender a pessoas, a eventos.
It will bind you to people and events.
E ela vai fechar as saídas de emergência natural que o Senhor construiu nas nossas almas para que a gente possa ter escape nos dias de pressão.
And it will block those natural release ways that the Lord has created in us in the days when we feel ourselves under attack and under pressure.
Você sabia disso que Deus construiu para as nossas almas saídas de emergência natural quando a gente está debaixo de pressão?
Did you know that God has provided us with natural ways to release and let go when we feel ourselves under pressure?
Por exemplo, a atividade física. A atividade física, ela gera dopamina no corpo e te oxigena o cérebro nos dias que você está com muita pressão?
For instance, physical activity. Physical activities will produce dopamine, which will um, bring an extra supply of oxygen to your brain, in helping you in moments when you feel stressed and under pressure.
Estar com pessoas que você ama, por exemplo, dias de muita pressão, você sair, tomar um café com um amigo que você gosta de estar junto, são coisas simples que dão uma baixada na pressão e no estresse.
There's very simple things that help kind of drop that pressure that we may feel. For instance, getting together with a friend, going out for a coffee and sitting down, having a conversation, also produce ways to help release us from the pressure that eventually leads down the path of bitterness.
Isso está disponível para o cristão e para o não cristão. São saídas de emergência natural.
These are natural exit strategies that God has provided both to the believer and the non-believer.
Agora, o que a raiz de amargura produz? Ela fecha essas saídas de emergência.
But roots of bitterness, they block this natural release strategies that God is giving us.
Uma pessoa que gosta de atividade física, ela começa a se sentir com preguiça, fala assim, eu acho que eu não quero ir treinar hoje.
Somebody who likes physical activity may feel depressed in such a way that he is now inclined to say, I don't want to do anything. I don't want to get out and move.
Aquilo que você gostaria de fazer naturalmente, de estar com um amigo, parece que a raiz de amargura, ela produz em você um isolamento. Fala assim, não quero ver ninguém, não vou sair.
And that desire to be with somebody else, to be with a friend, somebody you respect, it kind of goes away, and you feel like, oh, I don't want to get out of here. I don't want to see anybody.
E ela muda a sua perspectiva da vida. Enquanto nós temos um campo de visão de uma forma coniforme, né? Ela se abre assim, esse é o campo de visão, a maneira que você enxerga os problemas. Quando você está debaixo de uma raiz de amargura, você vê em forma de túnel, parece que só tem uma saída, você não consegue ver outras possibilidades.
When you were under the influence of root of bitterness, your vision that usually is peripheral, it becomes tunneled, and all you can see is what is ahead of you, and usually what is influenced by the root of bitterness.
Agora, se nós somos homens que estamos debaixo de ciclos, de estações diferentes na nossa vida, a amargura é uma ferramenta poderosa que o inimigo usa para nos paralisar numa estação e que nós não venhamos a transicionar para uma nova estação.
Cris, eu preciso que você comece de novo, porque eu estava pensando nesse exemplo que você deu da visão, algo bem específico, alguém bem específico. E aí eu viajei na maionese aqui. Fala aí de novo.
Vamos lá. Se nós entendemos, como eu falei no início, que nós somos, que Deus, ele constrói a nossa vida através de ciclos, de estações.
If we understand, like we said in the beginning, that God leads us through seasons in our lives, and transitions, moments of transition.
A amargura é uma arma do inimigo muito utilizada para te travar numa estação e fazer com que você não passe para outra.
Bitterness is one of the strategies from the enemy to keep you from being able to transition from season into season, keeping you from having experiences that create and generate growth.
Eu vou dar 2 exemplos para você, José e Jesus.
I will give you 2 examples, Joseph and Jesus.
José foi alguém que passou por uma sequência de perdas.
Joseph had an experience of losses.
Quando ele estava na iminência de uma grande transição,
And when he was just about to experience a great transition,
o inimigo veio com todas as armas para que ele desistisse e se amargurasse.
the enemy came down really hard with everything to cause him to abandon everything and become a bitter man.
Depois de ser traído pelos seus irmãos,
After being betrayed by his brothers,
injustiçado pela mulher de Potifar,
uh, 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 persecuted by the wife of Potiphar.
quando ele está na prisão e interpreta o sonho de dois amigos, do copeiro e do padeiro,
And then when he is in prison and God allows him to bring the interpretation of dreams to two men,
ele fala para os dois, olha, se vocês saírem daqui por causa disso, não se esqueçam de mim.
he pleads with them, if this interpretation leads you to leave this place, please don't forget about me.
E os dois saem e esquecem ele.
And they do leave and they never think of him again.
Ele poderia ter se amargurado,
And he could have become bitter.
mas se ele tivesse se amargurado, ele não teria vivido exatamente a sequência que veio depois, que foi o governo de todo o Egito.
But had he been bitter, he would have missed what came next, which was the government of Egypt.
Sabe, quando a gente começa a ver o inimigo tentando gerar em nós amargura, quando você vê situações de traição, perseguição, parece que é um ataque, pode ter certeza que você está na iminência de uma grande ressurreição.
When you start seeing the enemy moving himself in a way that is intended to generate these feelings of that will lead you down the path of bitterness, you can be assured that there is a redemption just down the road. There is a revelation of God just down the road that is he is trying to contain and keep you from reaching.
Isso fica evidente na vida de Jesus.
And you can see that in the life of Jesus.
A tentativa do diabo de paralisar Jesus,
The attempts made by the devil to paralyze Jesus
foi produzindo todo tipo de traição, de injustiça contra ele para que ele se amargurasse.
producing all types of injustice against Jesus so that he would question and start going down the road of toward bitterness.
Porque ele tinha que ir para a cruz como um cordeiro sem mácula. Se ele se sentisse amargura, ele não estava apto.
Because it was necessary Jesus to come to the cross as a spotless lamb. But if he allowed bitterness to come in, that would have not been possible.
E você vê isso evidente na cruz. Depois do Getsemane, na cruz, quando dão aquela esponja com vinagre e ele fala assim, Pai, perdoa. Eles não sabem o que fazem. Jesus deu o antídoto do perdão, que é a única ferramenta capaz de dissipar a amargura da nossa alma.
And Jesus, even when he was hanging on the cross, when thirsty, and he was given vinegar.
Deixa eu pode falar.
And he was giving vinegar. To the very last moment, we see this picture of bitterness being introduced, trying to cause Jesus to lose focus and allow now literally bitterness to come into his life.
Eu quero ver se eu acho aqui um vídeo para mostrar para vocês, para a gente já terminar aqui.
And I'm looking for a video that I would like to share as we wrap this up.
Só um minuto.
Just a moment.
Let me share the... I'm sharing the... Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Can you see?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go.
There is no sound, Chris.
No sound?
No. See if you can start over and
Aqui.
I don't want
Okay?
to
yeah.
say twice or for the 100th time what you or how much you've taken from us. I think you know that. But I just
One moment, let me explain what's happened here. This guy lose his brother. A policeman kill his brother. She make a mistake. She's not the guy. He is not the guy that she went to find. And for, how can I say, por engano?
And mistakenly.
Yeah. E ele estava no tribunal do júri para acusar a mulher que matou o seu irmão.
And he is on trial. And right before the woman who killed his brother.
E agora ele está falando com ela.
And he is speaking to her.
I hope you go to God with all the guilt, all the bad things you may have done in the past. Each and every one of us may have done something that we're not supposed to do. If you truly are sorry, I know I can speak for myself. I forgive you. And I know if you go to God and ask him, he will forgive you. And I don't think anyone could say it. Again, I'm speaking for myself, not even behalf of my family. But I love you just like anyone else. And I'm not gonna say I hope you rot and die just like my brother did, but I personally want the best for you. And I wasn't gonna ever say this in front of my family or anyone, but I don't even want you to go to jail. I want the best for you. Because I know that's exactly what both of them would want you to do. And the best would be give your life to Christ. I'm not gonna say anything else. I think giving your life to Christ would be the best thing that both of them would want you to do. Again, I love you as a person, and I don't wish anything bad on you. I don't know if this is possible, but can I give her a hug, please? Please?
Yes.
I believe that is very strong, this video, because this is Calma aí. This is what we need to do like a Christian. We need to choose to forgive, because the forgive is the only way to solve this problem inside us, to prepare us to the next season. You know, I'd like to read again the text that you mentioned in Ephesians 4. Can you help me, Adriano? Ephesians 4, 31 and 32. I believe that now could become clear what Paul is teaching us through here.
I was reading it in Portuguese, so I changed here just a second. Need to get it in English again. Okay. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and slander be put away from you, along with all malice. Be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, as God in Christ forgive you.
Okay. Keep is asking me here about if some seeds or roots could be developing in me because this situation about my mom. And I'd like to say you keep thank you for a word about, but I'm very good. My interior in order, you know. I'm so how can I say? Eu tô muito grato a Deus, Adriano.
I'm grateful to God.
Yeah, I'm so grateful to God because I could live an amazing time with my mom. I look for my past, and all the things that I lived with her was I'm a good son all the time. Since she become in this situation, all the time she tell me, you are the best son, you are a good son. And I don't have problems with my past. And I believe that we need to choose to live a kind of life that don't make doors open in the past. And this is how I feel. Is evident that I'm sad about this, but I don't have a problem inside me during this period. I'm so grateful to God to have a kind of death that can prepare me day by day. It's not something that steadily happens, and this kind of death prepare me day by day, and I can carry of her all the time. I need to finish to go to the hospital to see her and to be with my father and to help them. And for me, that's okay. And I believe that I may understand during this season that I need to help others to understand this, because I realize that people put the fault in God when they lose something or lose someone, and it's not my feelings. It's not my. I'm okay, and I'm so grateful for you also to worry about me, but I'm okay. The truth that I'm okay. And when we read Ephesians 4, here is the point: forgiven you and others like God in Christ forgive you. So, guys, we need to choose the way of the forgiven. We need to look inside us and to looking for some roots or some seeds that could grow inside us about people, person, situations, or include God. We need to do this, because when we allowed, what's the name of amargura, Adriano?
Bitterness.
Bitterness. When we allow bitterness to grow inside us, you change the way you see the life. You change your perspective about God. Is very dangerous. So my word for you today is to be attentive with this, because I believe that we are transitioning to another season. We, like this group of men, I believe that we are transition. By the Spirit, I can see that you are growing in the level of maturity. The first Zoom that we had, if we can understand what's our position 2 or 3 years ago in the Spirit, and now is easy to see how you grow. And I believe that we are entering in the next step. And for this is important, this word this morning, to look inside us and to prepare ourselves for the next level. I'd like to say thank you for me, during these years, to be with you. For me, is a pleasure, is an honor, is something special. I really consider you like my friends, and all at each week that we are together. For me is a good expectation that what God are doing. How are you? And I really hope to see you personally. I waiting for this. I can imagine like Paul when he write the letters for the disciples, and I want to see you personally. Is the same feeling that I have. I waiting for this time that we can be together and to give you a big hug and say, oh, that's a pleasure to be with you. And for me is all the time that I'm serving someone, when I believe that the food that I'm going, people are eating. This is my regard, you know. I'm so grateful to God for you. You are not a kind of natural man. People like you is different, because 3 years studying through Zoom, a specific word about new covenant, fatherhood. It's not about how you become rich, how are you going to receive more things for God. It's not about this, but death, the cross. Man, you are so special. I love you so much. I'm talking about you for all the regions that I'm preaching. There are a group of men in US that are studying about New Covenant about 3 years, and they constantly, all the week, we are together, and I love these guys. Thank you for this morning. Sorry, but I need to go. And I believe that next week and the next 2 weeks, I'm not going to be with you, because I need to have a travel. I'm going to preach in a region here in Brazil, and we're going with a group of pastors in motorcycles, you know. So I'm going to take the road next Tuesday, and I'm going to spend 1 week outside, and I'm worried about, you know, because 1 week far from home, you can imagine my mind what could happen in this period here. But if you remember, pray for me for the season, and we are going to keep contact in WhatsApp, and when I return, I talk with Adriano to have our next meeting. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, guys. You need to become here more time, Adriano.
I actually told Bella I was going to do to spend some time with her before she went to school. So, just FYI, everybody, Chris is going to be sharing with a group of men from my church tomorrow evening. I'll make the link available for all of you. If you want to jump in and join us, it would be phenomenal. All right. Love you guys.
Love you.
Just chew on this word. It's a good one.
Thank you.
Bye.